Never stop chasing your dreams.
And never say never. Welcome to the Rainbow Remix. This week we're doing a best of rewind series of some of our favorite musicians that we have had in the mix. First up in the mix is legendary Scottish singer-songwriter Horse McDonald.
Look at you.
Awesome.
You look fabulous, darling.
Hello, well, it's lovely. We've not done this for years.
I had not seen you for years, but you look amazing, and I watch everything you're doing all the time. You've had a big year.
It's been an incredible year, and in spite of COVID and lockdown, it's just been. I've been quite productive, not musically, but just kind of making plans ahead. And my tour, it's moved again to April 2022. But what's happened in the meantime is I got a little bit of funding. So on Sunday, I'm going up north to start recording.
Oh, nice.
Well done.
This is the first time I've recorded. I'm heading towards my next album, which I think is my 10th. I don't know. But anyway, so I'm frantically writing away here. But the whole point is me to experiment.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's all about, because the last album, Home, was a bit like a bookend with the first album, Same Sky, which the anniversary is about. So I feel free now to go off and explore and try things. Try things out. As I said, it's from Creative Scotland, which I'm eternally grateful for. It's just a small amount to get me going, but it's a chance for me to try things out because, like most musicians, without a major label, it's hand to mouth all the time financially, and you don't have the luxury of sitting in a studio trying things out. So. And I know that we've got like technology and you can sit at home and record, but it's not the same as being in a studio and having that environment. And this studio is an old church. It's called St. Mary's Space.
Oh.
It's a beautiful, beautiful place.
Oh, that's going to be...
That's nice acoustics in there.
It's incredible, absolutely incredible. So, and the engineer, Jamie, is a bit of an expert on acoustics. And he's actually an expert. I don't know what the phrase is, but he records and teaches people how to record ambient sounds, etc., which I do on my iPhone. I record, like for the last album, I recorded various things like the tide when I was a child, where I was growing when I grew up, the place that we went to when we were children, and I recorded a high tide, a low tide. I recorded where my mum and dad's ashes are. Now, you don't physically hear those things, but they're actually in the track.
Oh, wow.
But you know how do you know how I discovered this feeling thing? Years ago, during the Same Sky, there's a track called Speed of the Beat, which is one of the singles. And when you isolate, so when I say isolate, for those that don't know, when you sort of choose a particular track, an element, and you solo it, one of the things is we had Tony, we said, let's do a little shaker. And the best shaker we found was homeopathic teething granules, which was a tiny wee thing like this. So there's this big mic and him kind of going, shaking this shaker. So, but what you hear is him breathing. And the wee shaker going. But also the window, the big studio window door was open and you can hear birds. Now, the thing is, you listen to the whole track, you don't hear any of that, but it's in there. It's got a lovely feel to it. So, yeah, I've been interested in that ever since, and I like to sort of put wee snippets in, little elements that people won't hear audibly, but it's in the track. So
it's amazing.
That's awesome.
Do you worry about when you're doing a live show trying to harness that, or no? You just...
No, I think that kind of thing doesn't. I think when you actually perform live, you're breathing out from yourself, and people are breathing in what you're breathing out, and I think that's just as effective. There's little elements that are key sounds as opposed to those atmosphere things. Now, I don't think I've ever put, because occasionally we use like a track so that it sounds like the original, but yeah, I wouldn't put those things in. I think just performing live, like we all agree, performing live is the magic.
Exactly. You feed Jay, you know that.
I agree.
Energy. Yeah.
First of all, it's very nice to meet you. Denise told me a lot about you, and I looked you up online, and I was so impressed with your work and your career. And I understand what you're saying about those outside elements when you're recording. My last CD I made, we wanted a front porch feel to the song, like just like a laid back, swampy kind of country front porch feel. And instead of using any kind of a percussion instrument, one of the musicians played a cardboard box that just happened to arrive with a new piece of equipment for the studio. And it was just sitting there, and like no one would ever know that's a box, but it sounded like you're sitting on your front porch and you might be hitting like the side of a chair or something, you know? So I totally get that, doing that in recording, but you can't really emulate that on the stage when you play that live.
What's really interesting is that, I mean, my favourite producers are producers that use like analog sounds, real sounds. So that kind of thing of finding something which is not digital, it's analog. I mean, a lot of kids growing up today don't appreciate that, I think, quite the same, or being in a studio, or what you can achieve physically and you know, in the ether, properly in the ether. I'm trying to remember. There's a producer I really like called Pierre Marchand. Do you know Pierre Marchand? I think he's Canadian, French Canadian.
I
don't. He's produced the McGarrigle sisters. He's produced Rufus Wainwright. So there's obviously that connection. And his production, Sarah McLachlan as well, his production tends to be quite natural, but at the same time what he does is he uses natural instruments, and but he uses them in such a way as makes a loop with them. You've still got analog instruments, and so if you listen in the background, it's incredible, especially Sarah McLachlan's stuff in particular. It's just a real natural producer, really, really great stuff. So I'd love to find somebody that was of that kind of element. I mean, I'm doing all this myself at the moment, but what I want to do is record the album proper at the end of the year.
That's fantastic.
And we'll probably be looking for a producer. So I've never had that luxury before. So I'm like, oh, who could we ask? But you know, these things are on a budget, as JD would recognise. You know, it's I don't know. It might be okay without getting some producer in, but for me it'd be fun to have a bit of the responsibility taken away a little bit.
Yes,
it'll free
I feel that. Feel that.
Of course. You mentioned Same Sky. This is, correct me if I'm wrong, but 30 years, right?
Well, it was 30 years last year.
Okay,
so
31.
So we did one show which I filmed and recorded, fortunately, at the Queen's Hall in Edinburgh, and it turned out very, very well. So it's what people are going to get in 2022, which will be the 32nd anniversary, but we're still calling it the 30th anniversary.
But that's
will
huge.
Be the Same Sky show. So it's I don't know. The only way I can describe what's happening at the moment, I don't know. It's like I'm a real firm believer in fate, and I think that 30 years ago, when everything was going huge and bang, and we signed our deal, we released singles, then the album came out in '90. We toured with Tina Turner across Europe, and then the Gulf War happened, and there was all these things began to go wrong. And it's like the only way I can liken it is it's like there was this big wave coming towards us, and we missed it. I feel this wave now. This wave is coming now, and I can feel it, and I'm ready this time. I don't think I was ready then, and
it could be.
It's just so exciting, very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, you're a cover girl. You were on the cover of Diva, and then
I saw that.
And then behind you, I mean, that picture, the National Portrait Gallery.
Wow.
Well, do you know there are so many honours attached to that moment in time, and I think I'll try and pick it apart a tiny bit. So having done what I've done for many years, having been out and with a major record deal and no one really getting it, and then Katie Lang happens, and she gets all the shit, frankly, which maybe just saved me a little bit. But you know, things, it wasn't the time at that point. So I've been through an enormous amount. A lot of things happened in my life growing up, and the struggle to be an out lesbian woman in the music industry, lots of stuff. Equal marriage happens eventually in Scotland. You know, things, the tides, it's all changing. So that's all happening as an undercurrent. I did a show with David McCalmont. You might not know him, but it was the Dusty and Shirley show. So David and I sang Dusty and, you know, as in Shirley Bassey and Dusty Springfield songs at a wonderful club in London called the Hideaway, which is like one of those old-fashioned, a very American model where you have dinner and you watch a show.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And so in London and Streatham, it's an incredible. It's just moving actually recently. But anyway, we're doing that, and afterwards, this woman came up to me. So I often meet people after shows, and it was funny. She knows about this, so she would laugh. But when she came up to me, I'm sure JD's the same. You get people coming up to you, and you just kind of got to take a wee. Is this somebody that's just what's behind this? And she said, "Would you like to come up and see my paintings?" It was a bit like, "Do you want to come up and see my etchings?" But I was like, okay. She said she was an artist, and I was like, okay. So the next time I was in London, I went to her studio, which was in Streatham. It's in an old, beautiful, ancient old theatre in Streatham. And she has the top floor, and she's got a studio up there, and it's quite literally called the Bavarian Buffet. and it's got like flock wallpaper, ornate, you know, lighting and stuff. And it literally was called the Bavarian Buffet. So people would go to a show, they would go to the Bavarian Buffet and get a drink before they went to the show. Anyway, that's where she is. She's got this incredible collection of mannequins as well, beautiful. I don't know if you know as well, because mannequins, they're modelled on actual models, and some of them are incredibly collectible. And she has some incredible models. She calls them her girls. Anyhow, so I had a lovely, lovely time. And she said, "Then can I do your portrait?" And I was like, "Well, gosh, well, the honour's mine, really." So again, I went back down again, and instead of sitting for her, I sang.
Oh wow!
Yeah, because I sang Careful. You perhaps know Careful, and I just I couldn't sort of explain to her what I did, and I thought standing still and going like this wasn't the same, so I sang, and she took some photographs of me, and I never saw anything for a long, long time. She said, "The portrait's finished. I hope you like it," but then lockdown happened.
Oh.
So, and I was like, "Oh," she didn't want to just show me a photograph, and right, so hold that thought. She's done the portrait, but parallel to me seeing her saying do the portrait, the Imogen Gibbon, who's one of the curators, directors of the galleries in Scotland, liked Roxana Hall's work, so she went and saw an exhibition in Manchester, and then she said, "I'd like to come and see your studio and come in and see your stuff." So she was about to start my painting. And Imogen came in and was looking around, going, "Oh my God, I'd love to have some of your work in our galleries, one of our galleries. And it's just that you would need a Scottish subject." And she went, "Well, I'm just about to start painting Horse McDonald." And Imogen was like, "Wow, she's just the kind of person we want in our gallery to change what kind of content they have in galleries." Because I represent so many different things. I'm an older woman, I'm a lesbian, I'm Scottish, so, you know, I'm a singer. There's not anyone like me in that gallery at all or anywhere. And so she said to her about that. She then went and saw it. I didn't know this. And she said, I want to acquire it for the nation, but it has to go through a real vetting process between all the directors of all the galleries so that it's rightly kind of looked at and considered, and is it the right thing for us to acquire for the nation? So it's a government funded thing. So I didn't know, and then she said, "I've got something to tell you. You're sitting down." I was like, "Yeah." She said, "Well, we're at the last stage of the selection," and I was like, "Oh, really?" And when she said, I was like, "Oh," but I don't know about you, but if something's happening at a distance, it's not tangible. I know,
yeah.
So I thought, I need to rush down there and see this portrait before it gets taken back up to Scotland. And So I went down in the train during lockdown with a mask on, sat 5 hours in the train, saw the thing. The thing. I didn't. I was so nervous because I thought I really want to like this. I hope I don't dislike it. You know.
Yeah.
I looked at it and I didn't recognise myself. I just didn't, because I'm seeing myself from inside out. I'm looking at myself from the inside out. And I'm like, oh, and this character is so bright and vivid, and you know, I'm like, I'm a boring old fart, and I'm dark, and I'm not very interesting. But this is what I was thinking. And what she said to me was that when she paints, she tries to capture the essence of someone.
I feel like she did. Yeah.
Well, what she's captured is me singing.
Yes.
And when I sing with my heart and my soul, and that's what she's captured. So exactly. I'm getting kind of used to it now. But anyway, we weren't allowed to, when the portrait was hung in the gallery, we weren't allowed to look at it. Now, to show how big an honour this is. So this is the National Portrait Gallery in Edinburgh. Massive, beautiful old building. You walk in through these hallowed doors, and there is my portrait on the right. It's huge. It's 3 or 4 times life size. It's the only portrait in the Great Gallery. It's called the Great Hall.
Wow.
And that's all. That's the only portrait that's in there. And what's on it? And it just like there's a frieze goes all the way around, and it's all the great and good of Scotland.
Oh my God.
99% of the people on there are men, and some of the women are actually just like clutching at straws. Fate, Florence Nightingale. There's hardly, it's kind of symbolic images of women as well. So you're like, I'm like, I'm in this gallery. So also, being gay as well, it's like that's a big thing, and so to be in this gallery.
Amazing.
Feels like if I was a child growing up and I went into that gallery and I saw someone like me, I'd go, wow, I'd like to be like that. Who is this person?
Yes.
And when I'm dead and gone, it's like that portrait's still going to exist. And it's going to represent, it's going to show people that no matter what your struggles, you can still thrive.
Next up in the mix is multi-talented, multi-instrumental singer-songwriter and drummer for Sophie B. Hawkins, Katie Marie.
I love having rockers on our show.
And you've been traveling with Sophie, right? How do you go on the road with her when she's on the road? Do you play with her all the time? Because I was trying to figure that out with your schedule.
It's kind of difficult because it's a cross between my schedule and I'm doing more production work now, and also that both Seth and Sophie are in the north and I'm in Texas. Mm-hmm. So unless there's like a run of shows, it makes it a lot more complicated to actually get me physically up there. But I love Sophie and Seth dearly, and as you probably saw at the show, like we enjoy each other's company so much. And it's just been such a wonderful, literally life-changing experience, quite honestly, because I went into the tour initially suffering terribly with imposter syndrome, and because Sophie B is somebody whose music I grew up listening to, and we did a week of shows with Paula Cole, and she's someone who I also exactly, Denise, that was that reaction.
I don't want to wait.
And I just went into the whole thing thinking I'm not good enough, they're going to see through me and blah blah blah. And it was just so funny to be in their company and realize that they're just people. And I was like, oh wow, they're people, they're just like me and they're just like you. And and it was really, like I said, a life-changing experience for me to realize that I do actually have something to offer, and it's just been awesome.
How did they find you? How did how did they find you?
That's a great question. Quite randomly, actually, Denise. So I've known Seth for about 9 years, and even though we've only met a couple of times, we've interacted online a little bit. And during the pandemic, I was doing a lot of live streams, and I was posting these Funky Friday videos every Friday where I would challenge myself to come up with an instrumental song in 2 hours, and I was only allowed to do 2 takes of each instrument that I was playing. So I record like drums, bass, guitar, and some vocals, and I had to put it all together in 2 hours. And that was also a great exercise because I do get a little too precious with stuff, and I just had to just keep moving, you know. And it was really not getting wrapped up in stuff. And Seth got to see those videos, and I didn't really know anybody really was watching them, to be quite honest. And then he called me probably around this time last year and said, you know, I've got this tour coming up with Sophie B. I thought you'd be a really good fit. And it was so funny because I'd literally just decided I wasn't going to tour anymore. I was like, I'm not going to tour. I'm going to focus on my recording work. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, but you can't mess that up, can you?
With you like that. This is like, oh, really? Really?
No.
Yeah, I had to really think about it, and then I said, you know, I can't miss this amazing opportunity. So I said yes, and I'm so glad that I did, because it's been incredible, so much fun. And all the time I just had to pinch myself all the time, going, is this me in life right now? No.
That's so cool.
Yeah, you can see that synergy between all of you on stage, you know, that you are greatly, that you're friends and you respect each other, you know, through the whole show. It's just, it makes it so much more fun for the audience too. And the fact that you guys come out and meet the people after the show was so really, really nice for all of us that were there. Sophie comes out to the merch table, which is refreshing to get to do that, to get to meet the artist. So, yeah, and I'm enjoying your live streams on Instagram. Is it Noodle Thursdays? And the Tuesdays where you do all the different songs and your little stuff, and then you write the songs on a fly. I love that. That is so awesome.
Well, thank you, JD. I appreciate that. Yeah, I during the pandemic, I actually started 4 live streams initially because I'm a sucker for punishment. But I kept one of them going for the past 3 years, and that's been my solo show every single Tuesday, hang out on Facebook. And yeah, it's just it's a cool group of people that are just really kind and awesome, and we love hanging out with each other. And yeah, like you said, one of the things I do is the KM songwriting challenge, and I write a song in 60 seconds and people type in their ideas and stuff. And yeah, sometimes it's a train wreck and other times it's great, and you know. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and quite honestly, I didn't think that the live streams would go on as long as they have done. You know, yesterday I did my 129th show.
Wow.
I never thought I would be carrying them on 3 years later, but people are still coming, so they keep coming. So yeah, I've been doing that, and also Nighttime Noodles I've started doing again, which is just instrumental music. And I do that on a Thursday night. And the idea of that initially was that I wanted to help people just calm down during the pandemic, because there was just so much stuff and it was so overwhelming.
So
and yeah, exactly. And I thought, if I just create some instrumental music that people can meditate to or listen to, or even go to sleep listening to, a lot of people do. Yeah, that was just my main aim with that. And yeah, I brought Nighttime Noodles back recently, and people seem to be into it. So yeah.
And your wife does those with you? Does she do all of your live streams with you? Because I think the one I saw, she was there.
Yeah, she does. She helps me a lot with my Tuesday show. She's a harmony vocalist, and she also helps me because there's a lot of screens and a lot of stuff and things to do. So she's great at helping me with stuff, and she designs all the graphics that are on the screen and everything. And yeah, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun for sure.
Definitely. Like I think what happens is, like, a lot of people started doing things during the pandemic, and you know, kudos to you for keeping it going, because a lot of us have now changed our ways. You know, like I am very much in favor of staying home. Staying home. Staying home. I've been to like maybe 3 live things since the pandemic, and I mean, Hannah Gadsby, totally worth it, and Hannah Enbinder at the Soho Theater. So, I pick and choose. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very selective about like why I'm going to leave the house now. It's got to be something, something big. It's got to be, my wife just bought me tickets for Dawn French at the Palladium in November. So I've got a ton of time to work up to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that people rely on their entertainment and their, I have a cousin that's like a creator, he does YouTube videos and stuff. And I look forward to his Facebook Live updates about who's coming on the show and who's, it's like a great way to stay in touch with people, but also expose yourself to, new stuff and not having to buy a ticket and then, back out. So I think it's great. Like I really like the freedom of it as a viewer. It gives me to be able to watch it in my pajamas, unshowered. I mean? Like those are blessings that we don't think about all the time.
Blessings that COVID brought you.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And I too found it really difficult actually when we started going back to normal to feel normal,
jump right in, to just jump right in. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like we put pause on our lives, but we were still growing as people. And then we were expected to go back to where we'd paused. But it's like, but I'm a different person and I've changed,
Big time.
And also, I mean, I'm a hardcore introvert. And for me, the pandemic and being stuck at home was not a punishment for me personally.
I agree. I loved it.
I was really fine, my wife had a bit of a hard time of it initially because she's an extrovert and she likes to be out and about and she likes to be around people. We're very opposite in that way, but I was fine. And it was actually the one time in my entire life where it's like my skills are finally going to shine, So it was kind of a little bit difficult to come out of that, where I felt as if I'd finally been able to be fully myself and feel like I could really shine, and then pivot again and go back to what I find so difficult, because everybody's like, oh, you're so talented and you're so amazing. And it's like, yeah, but you don't understand the simple things that everyone else finds easy. I find so difficult, just going out the front door. I find it a very difficult thing to do. It's not easy for me, And, I'm sure you guys heard about the beads saga that happened. I had my beads taken from a
I heard that. Yes, you got them back.
I did, which was just insane. It was totally insane. But I'd taken them off and left them on the side of the stage. And someone, while we weren't there, and by the way, that never happens. I always have them upon my person or they're in my bag. And someone had come on the stage and obviously taken them and walked off with them. And amazingly, after putting out a call and saying, look, no hard feelings, guys, but I can't function right now without these. Like, this is a calming, a grounding thing for me. And without them, I feel really discombobulated. And amazingly, somebody said, yeah, I've got them. I'm sorry. I actually didn't realize they were yours. Someone else gave them to me, whatever.
Oh, wow.
And they actually did bring them back to the venue. And the venue then posted them to me and I did get them back. So it was just like this amazing kind of universe, putting everything together, and I got them back. But
it was meant to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was crazy, but it happened like right in the middle of a run of shows where it wasn't like I was at home to kind of be like, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really threw me for a loop for a couple of days. And again, Sophie and Seth were so kind and nice and helping me trying to get them back. And so yeah, it was amazing I'm very grateful. yeah.
I'm shocked that I thought it would be anonymously someone would send them back to you, but they actually owned up. Well, they said someone gave them to them, so you don't know. But
yeah, I know the full story, but I do know that they said they got home and they were looking at them and they were like, "Hang on a minute, wasn't that drummer wearing some beads that they take?" And they were like, "Oh my God, we've got Katie Marie's beads!" Oh shit! And so they called the venue and said, "We think we have the drummer's beads." So yeah, and then they brought them back. They brought them back when they said they were going to. So yeah, it was amazing.
I think that that would have had to bring some bad karma or juju if you did not give those back to you. I was thinking that when they were missing, I'm like, someone's got to give those back. How could someone think that could be good in any way, right? But
yeah, I agree.
It restores your faith, though. Like something like that restores your faith in humanity. That there's still some good out there, even though the world is an absolute friggin' dumpster fire. There's always like something that comes through that makes you go, okay.
Yeah, that's so right. Yeah, so right there, Denise. Yeah, honestly, I honestly didn't think I would get them back, but I was very surprised when it happened because that kind of thing never happens to me ever. I don't get things taken from me, and touch wood, it will stay that way. But I don't know. Things like that don't happen to me. The universe takes care of me and people are so kind and so nice to me. And you know what? I think somebody was just really, really drunk. There were a lot of very drunk people at that gig. And I think they just came up and just weren't even thinking and then just gave them to some random person. I think.
Yeah.
So, I don't think there was any ill intent there, but I agree with you, JD, in that I think it would have been bad karma to not bring them back.
I was thinking that.
So how did you land in Texas?
That was my question.
It's all my wife's fault. It's all her fault. So
is it really? We say that about being here.
Oh, really? Oh, crikey. There you go. I can only apologize, but
okay. So I was wondering, like, what keeps you there in Texas?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're like me.
Austin's a great music city, though, right? I mean, there's so much, especially original indie music in Austin. I played. There was couple of tours I did playing for bases, military bases, and I played Fort Hood, and we flew into Austin and drove to Killeen, and I just wanted to stay in Austin because I didn't realize how much that city had so much music. So, but I was just in and out through the airport, and then I've not made it back there. So I wanna go back there and hopefully see you in a show and go back there and play. I know there's so many different places to play there too.
I was going to say you need to come back then, JD. We need to rectify this.
Plane right away, and not that I think it's an hour. Are you an hour difference from where from here?
Mm-hmm.
So I love your songwriting when you do the writing, challenge. But I love your songs that your other songs that you have written and produced and thought about. Not the challenge ones. Where does that come from? Like, because as a writer. As a songwriter myself, I don't always write from personal experience. Sometimes it's observation. Do you have a lot of your own personal experience in your songs, particularly the one about not having the person that you want? I can't think of the name of that song.
Oh God, which one? So many of those. I'm one or two of those.
Joni told me to say hello, and she asked me to ask you about the song. Yeah, she said, I love that one song she wrote, and she couldn't think of the name of it today, and because I told her you were going to be on the show.
That's so right.
Yeah, but did it come from personal experience usually, or?
That's a really great question. And I think initially, yes, it was pretty much all it was, because I got into songwriting because I was this like angry, closeted teenager and no one understands me and I must all the things I'm very angry about. And so I found, about all my feelings, so everything up until probably about kind of 10 years ago was just all personal experience and just being super honest and raw and all that stuff. And then I got teamed up with an amazing engineer called Isha Erskine. He's a Grammy Award winning engineer. And we started writing TV tunes together. And he's like from a real kind of clean, clinical sort of, not pop, but his production style is very clean and very tuned vocals. And I was the complete opposite. It's just like, if there's little mistakes, it's like, no, that's cool. That adds character. That's great. Now the vocal's a little bit flat there. It's a motive, and that's what matters, And so we sort of butt heads all the time. And then we came out of it with these really cool TV tunes. And I think really from there, it kind of changed to me writing about other things and other people and just, reading books and writing about stuff that I'd read about. And I mean, the past 5 years, I've been focusing a lot more on producing and production, which is really like what I'm mostly focused on these days. And the cool thing is that I'm working with artists and I can give them my opinion, because sometimes we can be a bit too close to stuff to really be objective and know when to stop sometimes, And so, but the problem is that I've gotten to the point where I've been working so much on other people's things that I find it difficult to write those emotive songs these days. And I'm actually trying to dive back into that sort of honesty thing that I used to find so easy. And now I actually don't. I find it very easy to knock out a TV tune that's about someone else or something else. But that personal stuff, I'm actually finding harder to write these days, which is weird.
Yeah.
How about you?
Interesting. I write, the one thing I can never write is a love song. Like I had a lot of angst too. And I think a lot of my original writing was from me being closeted. As Denise remembers, I was married for 25 years to a man. And so all of those feelings is what I wrote about my first 2 albums. That if you hear like those songs, that's what you hear. So it's a lot of unrequited love and wanting people you can't have. But the one thing I could never write was a love song. And people have asked me to write their wedding song, and I have a really tough time with that. And I have a friend who's also a writer and a musician, and she said, you can't sell it because you don't buy it. And I'm like, wow. Right? That was so deep when she told me that. I'm like, wow, you're right. You are, so I guess
I'll write that down.
That is cool. You can't sell it if you don't buy it.
Next up in the mix is a professor, a singer-songwriter, and super successful independent artist, Melissa Ferrick.
So Melissa was just telling us that when she was 22, she was sitting in. Melissa, tell her you were sitting in an office.
Oh yeah, I was just talking about how like that question that you get from people be like, what would you do differently, or what would you do differently if you could look back now? And I'm talking about when I put this, I'm doing a retrospective so that it should come out next year in August, and I'm going to include little short essays about moments that I remember or things that I learned or people that I met, or like kind of like peak, quote unquote peak moments, not peak. Important, I should change that.
The ones that had the impact.
Ones that really were like, okay. And one of them was the head of publicity at Atlantic, who I was 22. The first record was getting ready to come out. She must have, I was saying to Denise, she's at her prime, right? Like this woman is like head of publicity,
right?
Like she kind of knows what she's doing, She was probably 50, my age now. Like when you hit it, like we're in our stride now. Like we know what we're doing, right? People, right. Like, we know what we're doing, and we don't give a shit what other people think anymore. We're just, we want to do things the right way, but we can also admit when we're wrong. We can learn new things. We can just let it go. We don't need to carry stuff around with us because who's got the time? And so I walk in there and I'm starting to tell her, I was trying to tell her how to, publicize my record. And she was so patient and kind with me. And she just listened to me. And she said, you have some really interesting ideas, and I'll definitely think about that. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, that.
And now I do that, you know?
Right.
I mean, seriously,
that is so true.
In your role now,
yeah,
how many kids come up to you, you know, and say, I want to do what you did, or I want to follow that path, and I want, you know, like, do you now tell them, be open, like, you know?
I mean, what they usually say, which is you have to be careful, right? Because artists are like really thin-skinned, you know. I mean, I'm
Very
still
sensitive,
so sensitive,
yeah.
and even now, you know, when I write a song and I play it for you, I really just want you to tell me that it's great.
Right.
I really don't, especially when it's a new song, you know, when it's new, right, JD? And we're still working out. Like,
oh yeah.
I really just want somebody to be like, that freaking melody right there is so good. Like, just don't say anything bad about it yet.
Right.
Just say what's good about it.
Right.
Maybe you could say, like, I thought for sure it was called This Time, because you said this time 16 songs, but you want to call it like, you know, you want to call it like Last Year's Heartache, and that lyric isn't even in the song.
Right.
Don't be freaking Tom York, because you're not Tom York, and you can't do that, you know, like. So you can say stuff like that to me once we're friends and we're in the studio, or like, you know, then I'm sure JD, like, then I do really want like constructive critique.
Right.
Because I can be like, that's a cool idea, but I actually don't want to do that, but thank you. So, but now students or younger people, they're not all students, just the other artists, and they just want to be, I mean, there's two categories, right? Like, they just want to be famous, which I have no qualms about, but I can't help you. If we knew how to do that, we would all just do that.
Right.
And then there's other ones who are like, I guess there's three categories. Then there's ones who are like, how do I do this? And I say, you have Google.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the white pages, right?
Right.
I mean, I literally looked up the address of managers that wanted to represent me. And I freaking went to New York, and I found their offices, and I opened the door and was like, here's a package. That's what we did.
Right. Yeah.
You know, where you want to play the bitter end, go to the bitter end.
Exactly.
Yeah. And learn what the bartender's name is and make friends with her.
Yeah.
That's true.
That is
true.
Don't be mean to the door person, because they're going to be running the club in freaking 6 months, you idiot.
Right.
You know?
It's different now. Yeah. It's so different.
These are the little nuggets. These are the little nuggets, you know, that
I think people should know this anyway.
Yeah, that's why a book is
where it should be that way.
Yes.
That's how you are. That's how I was, JD. That's how that's where I go. Where I was. I mean, when my dad said, learn the custodian's name because he's got every key.
Right. Right. That's exactly true. And you need to have that grassroots approach, because even now, you know, like you could go online and get people's names, but if you could get that personal connection and with the people around them, that's exactly true. I love that about the janitor. Your dad was so true. It was so right.
I just want to let both of you know that I used to eat lunch with a janitor.
Listen,
and
yeah,
doesn't surprise me.
You just can't. You can't. Because, you know, it's that old saying of like, who you see while you're going up, you'll see on the way down, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
It's and so those moments, like I learned, you know, two things from that experience with that publicist, which is one, you know, well, I mean, a lot of things, because I did have a lot of good points. I had my ear to the ground. I knew my queer community. I knew where I should, you know, that maybe I shouldn't be playing that club. I should be playing this club. And she's not on the ground the way that we are when we know our market. So the artist doesn't know their market, but learning to stay open-minded. And as I've grown up in this industry and written with other people and been, you know, now in teaching and learning about different ways of thinking, even being flexible with my thinking, like I just feel like I'm definitely a better writer now. I'm doing co-writing, I'm in recording with other people, and I'm writing in kind of in a country genre. And, you know, it's just really interesting how I just feel like I don't need to necessarily tour far away from home anymore because of COVID. Like one of the wonderful things about getting stuck at home, right, was that like I got a pretty good setup here now to play live from my house.
Right.
And I think that I'm lucky at the age that I am. My fans are older as well. And they don't necessarily want to go to the freaking bar.
Great.
Who wants to play at 9 o'clock? I'm like, you want me to go on at 9 on a Sunday? None of my fans are going to be up that late. They have kids, right? They have kids, and they have jobs.
Yep.
That's
true.
So I can go online at, 8 o'clock at night, East Coast time, which is 5 Pacific time. So I don't know.
It's good.
It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, things are changing. They're changing, and people had to adapt. We've all figured out ways to, we're in survival mode. We figured out ways how to survive that, but we also found out what works for us.
Yeah.
I think
it's thinking outside the box too. Like we had to really think outside the box on what we're going to do to have our still create and do our art, and the online thing really worked for me as well, Melissa, during the lockdown, especially. I was just telling somebody today, I just was in the other bedroom here that I made into like a little studio, and I was reaching people in Italy, like hello from Spain, hello from Italy, just on a Saturday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time. I don't know what it was there, but they were all listening, and I was like, that's why I had the idea to do this podcast. But I wanted to ask you, at your live shows, like now, these days, how are you selling music? Because people don't even have a way to sell a CD. And I still have a bunch of CDs, but, what do you do? Like, even if I wanted to have a new medium, what is it? Do you have a flash drive, or like with MP3s on it? Like, are people selling music, or do you just not at a show?
Yeah, I just don't. So, I mean, I had to, when I moved into Boston, and I don't know what you do with your taxes, but I threw out, I think I had to recycle about 12,000 CDs that I just knew I would, it just was weight in my attic.
Right.
And it was sad, and it was a lot of money, that I had spent.
Oh, yeah.
You spent it too. When 2005 hit, I mean, it was over, that 2005, when iTunes started, I mean, I really think it started a little before that for me, because I was, I mean, LimeWire first. Yeah. Well, Napster.
Oh my God.
Right.
Was, we were killing it with CD sales through 2000, 2003, 2004, 2005. And then I made a record called In the Eyes of Strangers, which came out in 2006. It's a great record. And I've sold out of those CDs. And then we did a repressing. And when we repressed it, that's when I got screwed. And so I took a huge, well, I don't know, huge in the indie world, right? Like I took a tax deduction for the first time on like product that like broke down or whatever. I don't know what the heck it's called. There was a column for it. So I actually got to add up however much it cost us to make all those CDs. You should think about that. And then you cut it in half or something. And then you can write that off as a loss.
Oh,
so that was good, but I cut some CDs, but now I just make vinyl. I make low run vinyl.
Really? Yeah.
And with the CDs that I have left, I put them out at a merch counter, and I leave a basket, and it just says, take what you need, and then there's
great idea.
Because some people like to get something signed at a show. Some people they have old cars with CD players still in them.
Right. Yeah.
But you're right. Nobody's going to drop 15 or 20 bucks on a CD anymore. They're just not going to do it. So no, I don't sell USBs or anything like that. It's all streamed. That's all it is.
Yeah. Right. I don't even bother to bring them with me to the show because it's just extra weight, like you said.
Another thing the roadie's got to carry.
I got some in the back of my car, and I just lay out whatever. I just grab a handful and I lay it out, and I'm like, there you go. That's it.
I like that idea.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. Like, I don't know. I just keep thinking like we're on a bend, like things are really, we're on a curve. Things are changing. We've learned from the last couple of years what's necessary, what we need to do. But also looking back, like again, 2004, 2005, that was a big change too. But look at vinyl's coming back.
Yeah.
People are leveraging their record players again, whether they're buying ones that are like that look retro, but they're really new.
Right.
I love it. I just love it. But yeah, people are getting back into the vinyl. I think that's smart to have a couple of those done.
Definitely. Well, it outsold CDs for the first time in the United States a couple of years ago. Vinyl did. So that's a huge mark, huge mark. And the good news is that even though the problem though, well, there's two. First of all, it takes so long. The backlog on vinyl pressing right now is so bad because there's only like 5 places in the US that even make vinyl. And one of the best ones like burned up and has been destroyed. I don't remember where it is, so I don't want to say the wrong place, but it's gone. And then the quality of vinyl pressing is also very back and forth. So there's some places that make very bad vinyl. So you want to be really careful about. And when you're finalizing your records, we used to call it mastering, we call it finalizing now. Well, you have to have a separate finalization for vinyl than you do for CD or for digital. So now for artists, now we have to pay even more money. We have to get you get Ozone. I don't know if you work in Pro Tools, but Ozone makes a fantastic mastering software called Isotope makes this plugin called Ozone, which has some amazing mastering software in there. So you can do that, but it's really it's a whole other ball game now with streaming. I mean, how artists are able to make money now really is just through branding and alliances and touring, but touring disappeared, right? And even with sync, like there used to be a ton of money in sync, and now because they know that they're the new A&R, if you're an unknown artist, basically you're happy to get the sync. You're not getting anymore. Like, I had a sync once that paid me $35,000. You know what I mean? Like that's a lot of money. But those just aren't coming through anymore for artists of my caliber or my success level. Now, you're lucky to get $150. I think I got placed in Dog the Bounty Hunter and I got paid $150. It's like,
oh yeah.
That's me taking the two of you for a steak dinner. It's like,
right.
Yeah, it is. It's there's no surviving in that route.
They spend all their money on, where they want the Rolling Stones song. They're, and now all the publishing, all the publishing buyouts, which is amazing. But so now if they want to use a Paul Simon song, they're, it's not Paul Simon anymore that says yes or no, because you have to get permission to sync. You can't just sync something.
Yeah.
So, but now they don't have to go to Paul Simon or his publisher anymore. They're just going to go to whatever publishing company bought out the entire rights of that publishing.
Right.
So it's incredible.
It's like and I know you got to bolt out of here real quick, but I'm only gonna. I just wanted to mention that it's so hard when you're doing, like Jay, we talk about this all the time, don't we? It's so hard when you're doing everything on your own.
Yeah.
Because the business interferes with the creative.
Exactly.
Interferes with the promoting. It's like all one thing, and you're, trying to, keep your hands on all of it. It's your stuff.
Yeah.
It becomes so much business that it's, like it takes a little bit of the joy away from it.
Next up in the mix is one of our favorite folk singer-songwriters, Tret Fure.
And I wanted to ask you, tell me a little bit about the Ukraine Now YouTube video.
Oh, well, that's a song that was written by my dear friend John McCutcheon and Tom Paxton. I grew up listening to Tom Paxton, so to be able to work with him and know him is like, it's like your dreams can come true, you know. But John, I met John through music as well, and he was the president of Local 1000 for many years, and he turned the mantle over to me. So we're always in touch, and they had written this song called Ukrainian Now. And then all of a sudden I got an email from John saying Noel Paul Stuckey wants to do a video, and would you be involved. We have to do it quickly because it's time sensitive. And I said, of course I want to be involved.
Yeah.
And so all these people, I sang through the whole song, sang some harmony, sang some bits and pieces of melody. And I knew that with the number of people, because it was Emma's Revolution, it was Chris Matthews, it was Peter Yarrow, it was Tom, it was Noel Paul Stuckey, it was Christine Lavin, I'm trying to think of Bill Miller, a couple other people. And so and then he used so many images from Ukraine. So there were just, sparks of people coming in and out. And Joe Jenks was, too. And then, it was just a, fabulous thing. I'm at the very end singing I sang through the whole thing, but the visuals at the end and the choruses. But, and I'm not sure what they're doing in terms of fundraising with it. It's just recently been released, and I'm sure there's going to be stuff coming out of it.
Yeah, but, let everybody know. It's like you can find it on YouTube, and I will definitely put the link in when we get to
please do, because it's a powerful piece.
It is powerful. Really, I was just going to say it's really, really, it's powerful without like some of the images I've been seeing, are so intense that they're hard to look at, but this is powerful in a different way.
Yeah, but it's
the collaboration.
Too. It's the tenderness of the separation of people. But I mean, I just found it to be incredibly moving the way he put it.
It really is. It really, really is. It's such a great thing to be involved in. I think everybody's like kind of looking, what can I do? What can I do? We're always looking.
Yeah, we're all trying. I donated the last live stream show I did. I donated 50% of the proceeds to the food, the food centers in Ukraine to try to feed people. Yeah, and I'm doing a concert later in the month in Ann Arbor, and it's a benefit for FemFund. And FemFund is an international organization, but right now they're focusing on the women of Ukraine. So all the money that's being raised, all the money that comes in for that show will go to FemFund. So
that's wonderful.
Little things we can do. I wish we could do more, but.
Exactly. That's how we do the same thing. We do the same thing. We were looking at like, in the area, like, are there centers that are collecting things, to take to Poland and, and we donated to, Rain Dove is a LGBTQ, model and, has an amazing, is working with an amazing company that is driving people out, like helping them get to Ukrainian occupied territories, and they post their little success stories so you can actually see your money.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And that's the important thing. It's knowing where to contribute, where the money is really going to get to the people. Yeah. And that's a tricky thing in a lot of these
organizations. It is, because, no matter what's going on in the world, a scammer will find a way to make money.
Well, it's like the COVID relief. Look at all the money that was completely misspent. Yeah. And went to, that stuff just happens. So
it just takes a second, to do a little research before hitting donate,
Yeah, I know.
Research, make sure you know where it's going. But I think the video that you guys made in the song is just amazing. Yeah. I was so moved by it. Yeah, it was one of the things I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask about that. I'm going to ask about that. Because it was hard. Like, I noticed that we watched a concert for Ukraine over here in London, like that on BBC or something. Mm-hmm. And they had put together that there was a young man in a bomb shelter playing a violin. Right. People from all over the world were playing that song, and they were putting the images up so that they were all playing together. And it was like one of those things that just took your breath away. It's just, the cool thing, I think, it's great in some ways, but we all found a way to get through COVID. Yes. And we all found a way to be able to see the people we care about and communicate with them, even if we couldn't be with them, Right. And I think,
these tools are magnificent, really. We have grown in our ability to engage each other, you know, and that's this video would have never come together if we weren't learning how to do multiple Zoom stuff, and it really, that's the upside of COVID is that we've gotten more tools and more ways that we can get the word out to people about stuff, about politics, about everything.
Every time we have a musician on, JD always says, like, how are you how are you selling your music nowadays? Because, you know, she was old school with the CDs in the trunk and the merch table, you know, at the live music, and people aren't buying CDs anymore, and everything is just streamable. You know, it's crazy. It's like, if someone would have told you 15 years ago, you know, we're not going to be putting out CDs anymore, like, would you have even thought, like, what?
No. I mean, and it's been a while that, you know, I swore, I said I would never buy a car without a CD player, but what are you going to do? I had to get a new car. You know, I had to, but I sell a lot of CDs. In fact, I was amazed at how many CDs I've sold this run. But, you know, partly it's because even though this album has been out for a year and a half, it's my CD release tour, you know, and people are buying the music. But I also educate people and tell them, you know, if you don't buy the CDs, if you just stream, we don't get any money.
Right.
You know, people don't. I mean, people are like shocked when I tell them how little I make off of 1,000 plays, and they're like, "What?" You know. And so I say, even if you throw the CD in the drawer or give it to someone who does listen to CDs, buy the music, because if you don't, we won't be able to continue to make the music.
It's true.
You know, so it's really it's like eye-opening for people, and then they run up and they buy my download cards, or, you know, or they'll buy a CD and say, "I don't have a player, but I'll buy the CD."
Yeah,
and you know,
people want to have something to sign, like they.
Yes,
you know,
they do.
Yeah, it is
the last of the artwork too.
I know. So. I never thought that I would be saying it's old school. You know.
Yeah, I know. But I know. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do a CD my next album or just do download, and I just kind of hate that I have to make that decision even.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And there's, you know, you're right about, you know, like how, I mean, I think promotion wise, it's about the same, but like you said, how do you continue to make money to continue to make music, you know,
if they don't buy the music, you know?
Yeah, it's tough. It's really,
it is,
you know, it changed. We were talking about, old school, like LimeWire and Napster, and, you know, when all that stuff came about, like, oh my God, everything took such a hard turn, you know. And I do remember packing up CDs, like when I moved here, not knowing what to do with them, you know, like why would I bring this? This is, you know, but it's crazy. It feels like that's going to be the collectible, as opposed to like our friends that are now coming all the way back around full circle and collecting vinyls. You know?
Yeah. People say, well, why don't you do a vinyl? I said, I did vinyl for 30 years. Or 20 years, I guess I did vinyl. And I don't see spending the money, especially with my audience. They're not vinyl phobes, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just want
it's the important thing too. Like, don't you feel, especially because I love how engaged you are with your listeners, you know, like you're so engaged with them, and a huge part of being successful and being able to have a career that's sustained all this time is knowing your audience.
Right. Exactly.
You know, like you know your audience.
I do. Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah. We were saying how PR people, you know, they know a way to do things, but it's not our way, and it's not. Yeah. You know, they don't know the audience that we have, you know.
Yeah. So, and, you know, interestingly, too, because I work with a folk radio promoter, because I work as much in the folk world as the women's world now.
Yeah.
A lot of the artists I knew were releasing singles. And I was one of the first people. I went to my guy and I said, I have this song. And it was one of my COVID songs that came after the album was released. I said, can we just release this as a single on radio? And he says, well, DJs aren't playing singles. I said, well, just try it. And now everybody's doing singles for radio.
Yeah.
You know? So I've put up 4 or 5 different songs over the course of the last 6 months. And it gets a lot of play on, you know, not everybody listens to the folk stations and I mean, they're not just radio, they're streamed, they're live and they're streamed, you know, on NPR and public radio and independent radio. But it keeps the music out there, so I'm not having to wait 3 years to present something new to my audience, listeners, and you know, that's a pretty cool thing that's happened.
Oh, well. Definitely, yeah. You know, and again, knowing your listeners, you know, they know where to find you. to listen, to hear new things, to hear, the older stuff, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's huge. And we, it's crazy that, like, and I don't know about you, but we were saying how when COVID happened and venues were closed and people weren't able to play out and everything, and now they're like, everything's reopening, but those venues are honoring, the canceled performers. It's really hard to get a spot now, and it's like starting over again, like
it is.
Go back to the little places while you're waiting for a bigger place to open up.
It's true. It's tough. I mean, I've had a couple shows that were honored that were canceled in COVID, or several actually, but you're right. You're like, well, I can't really book a lot in the fall, but that's okay. I need to be home a little more, because we're still at this point where people are honoring the past commitments, and then, but I know at least I'm on the list. I know that venues have me on a list, so that when things start opening up more.
And I'm always amazed at how you are. Like you just said, like in the past 6 months, 4 singles, like what's your process for writing? Like, it just hits you, or you have to settle in?
No, it hits me. It just hits me. I'm really, at this point in my career, I'm an inspirational writer. I just wait for something to show up. And I teach a lot. I teach songwriting online, and I teach guitar online. So I'm constantly working with other people with their musical and lyrical ideas, and it stimulates me as well.
That's great. Yeah.
So, but yeah, right now I don't really have a regimen, because I do teach a lot and play a lot. I mean, when I get home, I have a couple ideas I want to work on. One of them around this whole war situation. But I used to sit down, and write a whole track and then find the words and stuff. But now it's like, is it going to hit me? And it has. I mean, things keep coming, which I'm grateful for. Because I never know when it's not going to be there.
Right.
I never know when I'm going to dry up. And then people say, when are you going to do a best of? And I said, when I don't have anything else to say.
Exactly. We keep that in our back pocket.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we're in the process of doing that now with the old Lesbian Lounge shows.
Right.
It all comes back around. That's the beauty of it. People don't forget the good stuff. So it's amazing. But so you are making your way to Chicago
on Friday.
Let's talk about your schedule, because I want people to be able, now that they can see you live, get out there and do it.
Yeah. So I'm in Downers Grove, Illinois, on Friday at a wonderful folk club called Two-Way Street, and that's west of downtown. And then I go up to Mequon, Wisconsin, which is just north of Milwaukee, and it's the Wisconsin Singer-Songwriters Series.
Oh, cool.
So I'm playing for that. And then I'm going home, but while I'm home, I'm doing a concert with an online concert with Charlie King on, it would be May 15th. It'd be a Sunday. And Charlie King is one of the founders of Local 1000, the union, the folk musicians union that I've been part of for a long time. So we're doing this so-called odd and unusual love songs. So we're each doing separate songs, and then we're doing duets on Zoom. So it's, it's the back and forth thing.
Yeah.
And then I go out again to Kalamazoo and Ann Arbor. And then Memorial Weekend, I'm at the Pam Browning Animal Sanctuary. It's a festival she does in Spencer, Indiana. It's a wonderful little festival.
Oh, wow.
And then I get to go home. My next live stream show will be on June 4th, I believe it is. It's the first Thursday in June.
Oh, great.
Before I leave again later in the month for a couple of shows. But I'm really slowing down. July. I'm on the land, the Michigan Festival land. They're doing a lot of small festivals now. I did 2 last year. I did the Sobriety and Serenity Festival, and then I did Big Mouth Girl, which was Nidra Johnson's festival. And but I'm going back for this festival called Women's Performance Initiative, WPI, and it's an immersive 5-day workshop where you take workshops, and there's performance and there's jamming and all kinds of stuff. So that's very cool to be able to be on the land that the women have managed to keep, even after Mishfest ended.
Yeah.
And then I go to Seattle. This will be my 11th year teaching what I call boot camp, in Whidbey Island. Colonel Greta Kammermeyer. I don't know if you know who Colonel Greta Kammermeyer is.
Yes.
Serving in Silence. Yeah.
Yeah.
She hosts this. She's hosted this for the last 11 years. She's a good friend of mine, and she's got this huge house. So we do this. It's called boot camp because of her, and we eat on mess trays.
Yeah.
But it's guitar and songwriting, and I have women that have been there every year. A lot of women who've been there every year, and we've had some men too, but mostly it's women who come. And this will be our 11th year, and it's just this fantastic week, and we culminate it with a concert at her house that the whole island comes to. So that's going to carry me, into the fall, and then the fall is going to be a little bit easier. I'll be back in Florida in November, but I need some time.
That's a great pace. It's a nice.
It is. And if there's one thing I've learned, I'm not taking every little bitty gig just because I feel like I have to be on the road all the time, and that's one of the things that COVID has taught us, and also the fact that I can continue to perform online for those who will never be able to hear me, because I have women from Germany and New Zealand and Australia and England and all over that come to my shows, my live stream shows. So I just feel like I'm 71 years old now, and I don't want to do 100. No, I am. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this for over 50 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I want to take a little bit more time, to be home with my family and my garden, and but still be able to do what I am passionate about, and that's performing live.
Oh, that's
telling my stories and singing my songs.
It's great. Like I think you've got an illustrious career. I mean, like you said, I'm still over here going 71. Oh my God, I'm like 54 and I hate traveling. It's so grueling.
I've done it all my life, and it's what I love to do, really.
Oh man, you know what? You do it well, and that's the important thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, and you've got such an amazing following. They just and to think like all the part of it is like people not being afraid of technology, like I had, to work with my mom a little bit on how to do video calls and all that kind of stuff. And then tutor all her friends on how to do a Zoom call together.
That's right.
Yeah. That was painful. Yeah. But, the thing of it is like, you have to not be afraid of it. Like I think that it's opened up a lot of people who would otherwise have been really, really lonely.
Yep. I think so too.
Yeah,
it really would have. I mean, it really has. I mean, and even in the performance end, like I keep all my stuff is on YouTube. All my shows I do on YouTube, and I only keep the last couple up at a time. But every once in a while, I'll put them all up, or I put them up for my patrons for Patreon. Yeah. And I was listening back, and like the first couple were like, I didn't have the sound down. We didn't back in April of 2020.
Yeah,
and it was thin, and the guitar was wobbly, and it was like, oh God, I'm never putting that up again. But but by May, I had it all figured out, and only because there were so many tutorials and so many musician friends of mine who we would gather for Zoom meetings to educate each other on what's the best thing to do. What am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? Exactly. And I have a really good Neumann U87 that I bought in the early 80s when I was still engineering in LA. So I have a really high-end microphone and then a smaller one for my guitar. And so my everybody says your sound is amazing. And I don't add reverb or anything. I just like it to sound like I'm singing in your living room, which is what it should be like.
And that's a wrap of another Rainbow Remix Rewind. Why do you always run back to the lover you once knew? You're addicted to her touch, that's true. My addiction. And I confess, my addiction is you. Don't ask me why I'm here tonight. I had to take this midnight drive to find you. And as I come in through the door, I see her dancing on the floor beside you. Why do you always run back to
addiction is you. I turn away to mask the pain, but jealousy reveals my rage and madness. And knowing you can read my mind consumes me in a shameful kind of sadness. Why do you always run back to the lover you once knew? You're addicted to her touch, that's true. And I confess, my addiction is you. You are my drug, my ever-waking need. I got you in my blood. You've got me on my knees. Why do you always run back to the lover you once knew? You're addicted to her touch, that's true.